Hello everyone, welcome to the Buzz the Prey Manga. Today we continue the latest Global Freeze chapter, rewritten and edited by me in English for a smooth reading experience. All visuals and story flow are personally edited to give you the best manga style storytelling. Support the original creator by checking the official manga. So let's dive right into the today's chapter.
Chapter 2560 Won the Door to Omega 1. Hey Long Yuan said bluntly. To be honest, there are many intelligent people among them. They also know that the real enemy is Drucker, the seven deadly sins. But don't expect them to be noble heroes willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. They don't feel obligated to protect 6 generations of humanity. Instead, they see you as an opportunity. Zhang Yi frowned. What opportunity? He Longyuan stared at him intently. An opportunity to achieve Omega status. The air suddenly felt heavy. This wasn't the first time Zhang Yi had heard this term. In many ancient descriptions, Omega is regarded as a mythical entity, considered the extreme or the final end of life. Zhang Yi squinted. Could you explain it more clearly? He Longyuan nodded. Omega, in your human language, means infinity. In terms of the ability system, it is no longer measured by superpower index, because that is meaningless. For ordinary superhumans, the superpower index is a curve starting from a few thousand, tens of thousands, and then it keeps going up. When you reach the night level, the index is 50,000 or even 60,000, and the energy structure is beyond the comprehension of ordinary superhumans. But what is Omega? In numerical systems, Omega is defined as infinity. In other words, it has deviated from linear growth. It is no longer described separately as energy, physical body, and spirit. It is closer to a rule itself. By Longzi Yuanma added, simply put, once you reach Omega, you are no longer using the ability. You are the vessel of the ability itself. You are the embodiment of a certain concept. He glanced at Zhang Yi and said seriously, this is the only level that can directly confront a Drucker-level being. The 7 deadly sins, Zhang Yi said softly. The black dragon and the white dragon nodded slightly. He Longyuan's voice deepened. The title, 7 Deadly Sins, was given to them by 6 generations of humans. We previously referred to them as the 7 eternal kings of Drucker. They are the 7 strongest individuals in the Druck race. They have been besieged, suppressed, sealed, torn apart, stripped of their powers, and had their physical forms destroyed by us time and time again. We have fought them all the way to the present day, and only the 7 of them are still alive. You can think of it as 7 immortal Drucker kings. It's not that they are the 7 deadly sins, therefore they are strong. It's just that they happen to be strong enough to still be alive, which is why you've labeled them with the 7 sins. Bai Longzi added even more coldly, and they are all at the Omega level. Zhang Yi's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. In other words, to deal with those 7 kings, one must demonstrate strength at the same level. Right. And this level, Hailongjuan said quietly, is not something anyone can reach by cultivating for thousands of years or rolling through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. It is not something that is accumulated, but rather something that is activated by the era. The so-called activation of the era means that only when the era reaches a critical point will the creator open the threshold and loosen the rules of the entire planet in order to counterbalance Drucker. During that brief window of opportunity, a few life forms had the chance to step in and become Omega. He stared at Zhang Yi and continued, did you understand? This is why all races are in conflict and fight each other. They're not just grabbing territory, they're grabbing the window of opportunity. They will exterminate entire tribes, annex entire regions, and rewrite the ecology of the entire area, all in order to squeeze out enough resources and causal factors to detonate themselves and gamble on a leap forward. Bai Longzi said calmly, if they win the bet, they may become the new Omega. If they win the bet, their name will be on the main roster for the next round against Drucker, not yours. If they win the bet, the existence of you 6 generations of humans is no longer important. Zhang Yi did not speak immediately. He quickly organized their words, like setting up a chessboard again. First, the apocalypse is brought forward not to destroy 6 generations of humanity, but to solve the problem of Drucker's loss of control and to recall the entire old era's fighting force ahead of schedule. Secondly, the 6 generations of humans should have had a growth cycle, but it was abruptly interrupted, resulting in the current 6 generations appearing immature, unevolved, and weak in the eyes of all races, and thus being treated as variables that can be sacrificed. Third, the various races are vying for territory not only for resources, but also for the leapfrog window, for the only chance to become Omega. Fourth, Omega is the only level that can directly challenge the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins are the 7 Drucker kings who survived the ordeal and were not killed. Each of them is an Omega. So, Zhang Yi exhaled slowly and said softly, so from their perspective, we 6th-generation humans are not qualified to be partners, but rather fuel piles that can be used for sacrifice. This explains why the mass deaths of 6 generations led to the emergence of a large number of powerful individuals in various ancient civilizations. Later, the return of 14.6 billion high-level spiritual matter from the Aihen clan to the ether was another major explosion of power. Bai Longzi did not deny it. Instead, he nodded and said, "Very accurate. Then they really don't need to pity us." In their view, our deaths were even a necessary step for them to achieve their own goals. He Longyuan stared at him intently. This is reality. The air was extremely low. The wind in the distance was still blowing the same way. The projection screen maintained by the Celestials in the sky has dissipated, leaving only some broken energy traces on the scene. Those energies are like charred nerve threads, twitching for a moment before returning to stillness. Zhang Yi stood still, his fingertips slightly curling. He looked up at the black dragon and the white dragon prince, revealing a genuine smile that he rarely showed to others, a smile that came from the heart. It wasn't a relaxed laugh, but rather a laugh that said, "Okay, I understand." "I understand." His voice was steady. "Then, what I need to do next is very simple. First, I must ensure that the Huashu Kingdom is not used as a sacrificial resource. Anyone who wants to gamble on us will have to get past me first." He Longyuan looked at him with a deep gaze. "Second," Zhang Yi continued, "I have to find a way to open that door myself." "Which door?" Bai Longzi asked, even though he clearly already knew the answer. He just wanted to hear Zhang Yi say it himself. Zhang Yi looked at him and slowly uttered those 2 words. "The gate to the Omega level. Only it holds the hope for the survival of our race." He Longyuan finally smiled clearly for the first time. That smile wasn't one of relief in the human sense, but rather a long-lost sense of comfort. He narrowed his golden vertical pupils, as if he were witnessing a process he was very happy to see. "Very good." He Longyuan said quietly, "It's always good for people to have dreams, so keep working hard. Maybe one day, they'll really come true." Chapter 2562, The Door to Omega 2. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's words, Heilong's eyes showed admiration, but his tone was sarcastic. It's like an adult listening to a child agonizing over whether to go to Tsinghua or Peking University for college. I couldn't help but laugh. Even with the immense resources of the Dragon Clan, and with the personal guidance of the Dragon Ancestor Fushi, he and the White Dragon Prince had less than a 1 in 10,000 chance of reaching the Omega level. Therefore, they only regarded Zhang Yi's words as the admirable ambition of an ignorant child. The Black Dragon didn't reveal anything, but in any case, Zhang Yi becoming stronger wasn't a bad thing for the dragon race. They definitely need an agent to walk among humans, and without a doubt, Chaos from the Kingdom of Huashu is the best choice. Bai Longzi Yuanma added, his tone still rational and calm, but also carrying a rare hint of serious admonition. "Then from now on, remember one rule. Don't try to save everyone." He bluntly stated, "You can't save all of human civilization. You can't block every knife. You can't take care of every area. And don't let those people morally blackmail you into jumping into the fire. All you need to do is ensure that your people survive, that your flame continues, that the land you stand on is not used for sacrifice, and that you yourself live and charge toward Omega. Only when you reach that point are you qualified to talk about salvation. Before that step, any calls to save the world are just using you as expendable material. Compared to the Black Dragon's antics, the White Dragon Prince seriously gave Zhang Yi guidance, for which Zhang Yi was very grateful. He nodded. Thank you for your guidance, Lord Yuma. I understand. He took a deep breath and said calmly, Tianhai City is the first group of people who must survive. Huashu Kingdom is the main civilization that must survive. My people must come with me to the last stop. Then, we'll consider the future and how to counter the Druckers. He Longyuan stared at him, slowly raising his hand as if making some ancient and solemn promise. The Dragon Clan will open several paths for you at crucial moments. We won't take you with us. But when you have to take that step, we'll protect you and prevent anyone from influencing you from the sidelines. Bai Longzi Yunma said softly, remember what we said, this is not a favor. This is an alliance. We protect you because we are ensuring you can walk that path. You didn't go up there for our sake. It's because if no one goes up there, he looked up at the distant sky and lowered his voice, those 7 things will really come back. By then, this world will no longer be called Earth. It will become a feeding trough. Zhang Yi exhaled softly, raised his hand, and adjusted the shoulder armor of the End Demon God. He could feel his heart beating steadily beneath the shoulder armor, without any erratic or panicked beat. He even chuckled softly, half self-deprecatingly and half seriously. Okay, I understand. I will never say things like, humans should keep a low profile and be more patient again. I can't stand it anymore. Since everyone's vying for the same door, I'll go for it too. If anyone dares to touch my people, I'll break their hands first. He Longyuan nodded readily. I like that sentence. Bai Longzi Yuanma looked at him calmly. You asked how strong Omega is. I'll answer you too. It's infinite. But there's something else you should remember even more. Few people return alive from the journey to Omega. When you go there, you represent not only strength, but also that you have been singled out by the times and are destined to die. So, before that, it's unacceptable to think of yourself as someone who can die. Your first priority right now is to stay alive. Do you understand? Zhang Yi looked up and met Bai Longzi's gaze. After a long silence, he said softly, I will live. I will get to that point. Then I'll decide who deserves to die. The wind blew past him, across the ravaged land, across the faces of the ancient civilization warriors, and across the racial representatives who were still unwilling to accept their fate, but had temporarily fallen silent. At that moment, many eyes lingered on him. Some were skeptical, some were wary, and some were making estimations. Goodwill and malice coexist, and opportunities and challenges arrive one after another. A few, however, are already quietly considering him a key figure on their list of future wars. After this battle, the entire race could no longer view the 6th generation with the same dismissive attitude of just kill them all. Zhang Yi had already made a mental note of this. He understood that a new era was about to begin. He must lead everyone around him to exist well in this new era. For the sake of Tianhai City, for the sake of Huashu Kingdom, and for the sake of those around him to be able to live and see the next sun after the apocalypse, he had to touch that door. He must not fall down before that. The winds on the Australian continent have finally stopped. As the All Races Conference ended, representatives from the ancient races withdrew one by one, carrying with them their own calculations, greed, and suppressed ferocity. But, at least on the surface, the outcome is already decided. The territory of Huashu Kingdom was also preserved thanks to Zhang Yi's outstanding 1v4 combat performance. This was the consensus reached by all parties in the post-meeting summary. The original territory of Huashu Kingdom on the surface of Earth would remain unchanged, and they acknowledged that Huashu Kingdom was an entity with independent negotiating rights and would no longer be included in the so-called relocation zone. In other words, in the short term, no one is qualified to use the banner of epical change to enter the land of Huashu, set up colonial flags, and occupy land and station troops. In the final negotiation, all races tacitly accepted this outcome through silence. But other countries in the human world are not so lucky. Britannia shrank its coastline to the south, giving up large tracts of coastal farmland and shallow water fishing grounds in exchange for a slightly safer inland highland. The entire northern territory of Fremont has fallen, with only a river basin being reclaimed as the new capital region. The vast plateau to the east of the Khotan Empire was marked by the Titans, and thereafter it was no longer a human administrative region, but a Titan hunting ground. Further south, countries like Bharata and Japan nominally retain so-called civilizational autonomy. But their own territory has begun to crumble, as if cut by a high-temperature welding torch, and the patched-up borders are clearly not the original state. They coexisted with ancient civilizations, and the ancient civilizations became the dominant force, while they became the followers. Japan, in particular, has lost all its voice and has been completely controlled by the Rat clan. In other words, apart from the Huashu Kingdom, almost no country has been able to completely preserve its original territory. Some small countries were even crossed off the map altogether. Here ends today's chapter. I hope you liked it. Kindly do also subscribe to my gaming channel. I have to Fina a way to survive. Thanks.
Alright, that's it for today's chapter. Tell me in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. If you love manga style stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the Buzz Play Manga. See you in the next chapter with more surprises.